Not a great start. How's that? Thank you. So we'll open the meeting with a karakia by Councillor O'Brien. Thank you, Councillor.
Tēnā tata. Maki whakatūwhera tēnei o tata hui. I raro te manaki tangata, kai hanga o tira ki ainui tata. No re ko tātua he maunga rongo I te whenua he whakaro pai ki ngā tāngata katoa. Ngai e ho he ngā kau hoki roto I tēnā mātou whakatōni o tō wairua tapu. He o whina he tohu I a mātou. He a whai kāia mātou I ngā hua pai I ngā hua tikanga o pono e pāna ki tēnei o tata hui. Kia tau ai e mātou te rangi māri. O tira te atua koe nei ngā whakamuimiti ngā whakakori e toi ngā tapu. O tira ke tui tonu tēnei tukumihi a koutou ia koutou e te whānau kua tai mai. E runga te kaupapa o tēnei ra. Kia koutou nā ngā tira, ngā tiawa, ngā tirangi tihi hoki. Ko kara pine mai e koutou e tātou katoa I raro te tūnu o tēnei whai. Nau mai hara mai ki tēnei. O tira, te mihi tuatahi, he mihi atu ki a rātou mā ko whetirangi tia. Mo ana tēnei, e tātou ana tētahi o ngā mātou kau mātua o ngā tiawa, a te rangi tūkehu pō, ngā ana I takoto ana I tōna kaige te ata nei, I mua tāna haerenga I tōna marae, I rua ai hona a te ahi ahi nei. Ko tira tēnei te mihi atu ki aia, kia rātou hoki kua whetirangi tia. Kia tātou katoa, e te hunga, ko tai mai, ai runga te karanga o tēnei rā, he kaupapa nui, he kaupapa tino whakahirihira. Kia koutou, kia mātou katoa. Kia tātou katoa I tēnei ata. Pea no me waihonga kōrero ka kōrero hia. Waku nei whakaro kōti pai tēnei kaupapa. Tata nei, e tīpene I a koutou katoa, nā me mō te hāpori o a Matata, nau mai, hara mai. Nei, ngā kai kaunihira o te rohe nei, e mihi ake ki a koutou, kia tātou katoa I tēnei ata. Tēnei ata huri noa, tēnā koutou ki ora tātou katoa.
Thank you, Councillor. So, welcome to Councillors, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, staff, Steve, our Chief Executive online, and members of the public, especially the Code Governance Group, which I'll introduce at the time of that paper. So, a couple of housekeeping things first, and we talk about live streaming. So, Council and Standing Committee meetings are live streamed on the Council website and YouTube channel. Public gallery attendees' presence implies your consent to being broadcast, should you be in the camera. For further information about live streaming protocols can be found on the Council's website. So health and safety, in the case of emergency, follow the building wardens to the nearest exit, and those exits are indicated by the green lights above the doors. And the meeting point is across the road at Peace Park by the museum. If you need the bathroom facilities, they're out in the corridor where you came in the sliding doors. So our first item is apologies, and so do we have any apologies? So there being none, we go to item 4, which is acknowledgements and tributes. Do we have any, councillors? Deputy Mayor Amick.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Good morning, everyone. Kia ora koutou. Just a little bit of an acknowledgement, if you hadn't seen it already, is that the Whakatane Hopi Community Board has been successful in being able to get some signage put up to acknowledge Lisa Carrington as being our real champion. So it's over at a Hopi. If you just go around to the left as you go along to West End Road, and Carrington Place is along there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others?
Just through you, Mr Chair, just an acknowledgement of one of our kaumātua from Ngātiawa, Rangituki Pō. I mentioned that earlier in my me. One of our esteemed leaders has passed, and he'll be heading on to the marae this afternoon. So just an acknowledgement of the life of this person that he spent all his life dedicated to Ngātiawa, so we're very proud of that. Just acknowledge his passing. Amen.
Further? So I have one, and this is our last meeting of the Infrastructure and Planning Committee for this council term, and my term as chair as well. So I'd just like to thank the Mayor and Deputy Mayor and staff for all the support that we've had over the years to do what we've had to do. So it's been a pleasure on my part to serve the community and councillors likewise. We've made lots of decisions. We've had plenty of debate. We don't always agree, but we get there in the end. So that's important, and I really appreciated that support. To those that are standing, when you come for the election, come with an open mind and be prepared to learn, and leave your wheelbarrows with the Fix the World and other things behind, because that's important. That local government's a funny sort of a beast really, but we do the best we can with the tools we've had. So time's nearly over. This is, as I say, the last meeting. So for me, it's been a pleasure. So thank you. So item 5 is conflicts of interest. Do we have any? There being none, confirmation of there's no public forum. Confirmation of minutes. Item 7.1, are there any corrections to the minutes that were on the 24th of July 2025? There being none, can I have a mover and a seconder that the minutes of the Infrastructure and Planning Committee meeting held on Thursday the 24th of July 2025 be confirmed as a true and correct record? Councillor Boynton, Councillor Rangiaho, second. Any debate? There is none. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Our next item is the Mayor's Taskforce for Waters report, which is on pages 10 to 20 of our agenda, item 8.1. I propose that we just receive the report only, and no questions or debate. So do I have a mover and a seconder to receive the Matata Wastewater Mayor's Taskforce for Waters report? Mieluka. Second. So there being no seconder, the report lapses and will stay on the table. Item 8.2, page 21 to 61, Matata Wastewater Project update. Now I'd like to welcome the co-governance group who are here today, and that's Tiffany, Lytle, Chris, Francis, Kerry and Peroto. Welcome. So, welcome team. Peroto, do you wish to open? Thank you.
Ati e mauri ora. Tua kana atu te mākoe. Wakari tēnei koe, tuku atu ai, karakia te wāhi ngaro. Ke tau mai ai ngā manākitanga o te atua ki runga te tātata hui I tēnei rā. Karanga mai mihi mai tō tāu o korua, karangi tukehu e kōrero hea ki nei. A koe ia tēnei e takoto tiraha nei tō nakainga, mai te hea I nei, ka tau atu ia ki runga I tō tāu o marae. Paruai hona, ki roto o Ngāti Awa ki te rangitaki. Ngā mate kei runga I te awa o te atua, mātau o Matata, o rangitihi, o tūpareto ki o Niao, Ngāti Umutahi, I rā moko, te tāwera, te rangi hauhiri, me Ngāti Hikikino. Wē nei mate, wē rā mate, o koutou mate, haere, haere, haere koutou. Tēnei te tainga mai o te niaotanga o mātātu o te arawa. Mātou ko tai mai te whakaputai o mātou kōrero. Kia mōhio ai koutou, tēnei kaupapa mo te wastewater me te sewage e tautoko ana, e tautoko ana, e tautoko ana. Ko tahi tonu te kōrero o ngā iwi, whakamanatia, tautoko hia. Kōro nei te wā, mātou e mahi tahi ana, tatana te toru tau. Nō reira ko tai mai te wā, me whakamanatia tēnei kaupapa, ke pai ai te hauora o mātou whānau, ngā Pākehā, ngā tauiwi, ngā tāngata katoa noho mai ana ki roto o Matata, taingoa kia mātou, ngā iwi, tangata whenua o Matata. O reira tēnei au, ka tuake nei, ka tapototia te mānuka, ka rehe kōrero, ka rehe wero, ka rehe whakamātautau, whakamanatia ai, tō mātou e tūmana ko hi ai. Kei te rongo hia mātou, e tautoko ana tēnei kaupapa. Wā mātou māngai, ara, ko Gavin, ko Wilson, ngā māngai mō mātou ki roto o Matata me te rangi taiki. Ko tā rāu e ki ana, koe o mātou whakaaro wei nei, e tautoko ana mātou. Te tiamana John, tēnei kaupapa i tēnei rā. Ki te kore, ka tuku tunutia ngā paru. Ka pēhea ngā iwi me ngā tāngata katoa Matata. Ka māwiwi, ka he te hauora, ka he me ki te hauora o roto o Matata katoa. Korera ka reira hea ke wēnei kōrero, ko te mea ngui kei konei mātou, ngā iwi, o Ngāti Rangitihi, tūwhare toa, me Ngāti Awa, e te hāpori, titiro mai, kei konei katoa, mātou, ngā rangatira, ngā kai hautū, o te hāpori o Matata, e tautoko ana i tēnei kaupapa i tēnei rā. Whakapau kōrero is the mountain, Rangitihi, Umutahi, Tūwhare toa, Ngāti Awa are the tribes, and of course our ratepayers and all of those who are our people that live in Matata. We have come here today because we know the importance of the health of our people, of our town. It has been a long time that the council has had to deliberate and discuss and think about this for us. But the sewage and the wastewater is a huge issue in terms of our health. That is the most important thing in terms of the relationship that we have. You can see we have our team here. Te niatanga o Mātātua, te niatanga o Te Arawa. We have worked in terms of the treaty principles and how we worked as a team. We have been open, we have been transparent, we have been honest in our approach. And in fact, this team here has all the experts that we require. But the most important thing is the backbone of our community of Matata and our three iwi. Ngāti Rangitihi, Tūwhare toa, and Ngāti Awa. So today, councillors, we only have one thing to say, whakamanatia. There's no other discussion. We support our councillors. Councillor Gavin, and also Councillor Wilson, them supporting us as well as the representatives for us in our Rangitaiki area, and in particular in this issue for us in Matata. We will present today in terms of the importance of this to us. We know there's a lot of different versions going out there, but as far as Matata is concerned, there's only one version, that's ours. The treaty relationship that we've had, both with council and ourselves as iwi and our local community. Every step of the way in terms of our consultation and engagement has been thorough. There's been no shortcuts. So today our community are here to say, because of the health and safety and the future of our community, this project is dear and important to us. Ko reira kamutu rā, taku kōrero ki reira, so I'll end there and say, pai a te iti kahurangi ki te tuohu koe me he maunga teitei, We know that this is not an impossible mountain to climb. We know that the council generally are good leadership for us right across the district, and we know wisdom will prevail today in terms of the decisions that you must make. On behalf of your community of Matata, on behalf of our three iwi, Ngāti Rangitihi, Ngāti Awa and Tuparetoa, you place that down there in front of you all. I recognise that the Mayor is also present, Deputy Mayor, and also our councillors. So we look forward to anything that will come up in front of us today. This committee, our team will respond. We've been working for nearly 3 years. This is not just a, something that just happened yesterday. No, it's been happening for many years. The floods that we've suffered, and it's come time for the infrastructure of our community to be upgraded so that we can ensure that water in all its forms and sewage in all its forms will be looked after for our community. If we don't, because there's already sewage in the lagoon, there's already sewage all around the area because the infrastructure needs to be updated and upgraded. We're here because we believe in it, we're convicted, and we know that our council will support us. Kamutu, tēnā koutou, kia ora tātou katoa. Ho te ora wai. Ho te ora wai. Ko te whakariki, ko te whakariki. Tukua mai kia piri, tukua mai kia taka. Kia ke mai tiunga i te pai poto. Toi amai. Waka ki te urunga. Waka ki te moenga. Waka ki te takotora mai takoto. Wai te waka. Kia ora tātou pangiri.
Thank you, Parato. And for me, this is a new dawn where co-governance is in action, and it's a great example. And we really appreciate the effort that you guys are doing. So we look forward to hearing from you today. So thank you, Janine, you leading. Timothy. So, Nicholas.
Kia ora, John. Tēnā koutou katoa. And just want to acknowledge the members of Te Neotanga, the co-design group who are here today. Thank you for attending and working with us for this over the last 3 years or so. We've got just a brief presentation that really summarises the report that's in front of you today. So what we'd like to do is to run through the presentation. It's only 11 slides, and then perhaps through the chair take some questions at the end of that. It just really summarises the project and the report that's presented. And I also just really want to clarify that what we are seeking today in terms of decisions from the committee is an endorsement of a preferred option. Subject to that decision, the next stage would be to then develop the consenting strategy and do the work around infrastructure funding and financing, update the business case, do the engagement with the community, with neighbours, actually all the work that we would need to do to then inform a future consent application. We would be working towards that. It's not seeking a decision around proceeding with a consent application or a particular funding decision. That work will come in the next phase. But essentially, in terms of the work we've been doing, we've got as far as we can get in terms of the technical work to determine an option. It's really seeking a decision to go into the next phase, which would be to actually start to develop what that option looks like ahead of a resource consent application. So that's where we're at, and that's the decision we're seeking today.
Anybody else got anything further to add before we ask questions?
Nicholas has got this presentation.
Right, presentation now.
I'm just trying to get the clicker working if we can. Great, thank you. So, I think we're all aware that there is a long history of trying to resolve the wastewater issues in Matata, going back 20 odd years, and that's actually when we got the the subsidy from the Ministry of Health was actually 21 years ago, 2004, that 6.7 million, which was to pay for a wastewater scheme because of the history of issues with wastewater Matata, with the high groundwater level and the human waste, essentially, in the receiving waters. And we have been engaging with the co-design group. There's a, I'll skip forward. I can. So we started with the co-design group, and that wasn't just to agree a solution. And we actually started with how we work together, and that was the starting point. Is the process of co-design. It's not just agreeing what we're going to do, but it's also how we work together. And it's been a very deliberate process we've undertaken, and been very careful to make sure that it was well grounded and had good foundations, and that we followed a very clear process in trying to find a solution for Matata. And to a certain extent that was based on learnings from last time when Council made a consent application 2013, which was subsequently overturned in the Environment Court. But we learnt from that and have taken a different approach this time. I'll just hand to Francis to talk about the Tarawera restoration strategy.
Kia ora. Tuatahi tēnā tātou katoa, Mr Chair, John Puller, Your Worship, Mayor Luka, kautara ngā kai kaunihira, ana o tātou nei hoa. Nando, Gavin, Leslie, Whai Leslie, ana tātou katoa ngā kai kaunihira o Whakatane District Council, tātou ngā iwi o Tarawera awa ki te awa te atua I konei, rātou katoa ngā iwi e mau mana ana ki te taho o Tarawera awa, rātou mā I tai mai hei whakakanohi mai. Hei whakakanohi mai mā tātou, hei tautoko I tēnei o ngā kaupapa. Tino hirahira mā tātou katoa o Matata. Nā reira, ki o mātou nei kaumāta, o mātou nei koeke, nau mai, tauti mai. Ko Francis, Dr. Francis Taina Kore Curtis tōku ingoa. I am the Taiao manager for Te Mana o Ngāti Rangitihi tuatahi, and we have our team here from our tari that is working solidly down in Matata around anything to do with our Taiao and the restoration, some of the restoration work that's always ongoing. We also, I also wear a second hat, and that is the project manager for our project team. We have Kerry Topoine here for the Tarawera Awa Restoration Strategy Group, and Kerry is our document writer. So so we have two parts we're playing here. We sit alongside Te Niaotanga o Mā Tātua o Te Arawa, and we also sit on Tarawera Awa Restoration Strategy Group in the project team. And there are a couple of people here in this room that are very familiar with that space because, Your Worship, you have a seat at that table. So mihi atu kia kōrua tahi ko Leslie, who sit there. We have Dr. Pauroto Ngaropo, who is our Deputy Chair of the Tarawera Awa Restoration Strategy Group. And we also have Matua Tipene Mā, who's in the audience, and who is here as the alternate member for our Chair for Tarawera Awa Restoration Strategy Group. So that's the makeup of what this looks like. Now, rather than having to read out what is sitting up there on our slide, I guess what we're trying to say here is for mana whenua, and that's Ngāti Rangitihi, Ngāti Mākino, who has mana over Te Awa o Te Atua, Ngāti Awa, and Tūwharetua ki Kaurau. They seriously have a promise and take commitment to restoring Tarawera Awa and Te Awa o Te Atua. Now, when we think about our reticulation scheme, absolutely we need that, because we have a wider picture that we're talking to around a strategy, and Kerry will be able to talk about some of that shortly. But one of the parts that we're really looking into is how do we proactively restore and protect our awa, as well as enable economic opportunities in the Matata area. We're talking about growth. Whānau, we're talking and allowing it to be iwi and community-led alongside our council. How do we think about unlocking cultural tourism as an example? We cannot do that without having our reticulation scheme operating, being implemented into our rohe, our whaitua of Matata, without our council's help. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Kerry to talk to some of the themes that have fallen out of our strategy that we are developing, and that strategy is a legislated strategy under Ngāti Rangitahi's treaty settlement with the Crown. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora koutou. Ko Kerry Topoina hau, hi uri tēnei ngō Ngāti Awa Rawa ko Ngāti Parau, he ngā maihi, te hapu i te taho tōku māma. I have had the absolute privilege of working alongside my friends in the Matata Wastewater space, but also more recently the Tarawera Awa Restoration Strategy Group as the writer of the strategy. And what a privilege it's been to be able to sit in that space and hear from, hear the connections, the relationships, and the significance of Tarawera Awa ki te awa o te atua. It's a big task. It's a legislated mandate under Ngāti Rangitahi's settlement. It's important, it's weighty, and the strategic objectives have been carefully crafted in order to produce some good outcomes for the awa, first and foremost, and the community that has relationships to those waters. So we have, it's been handy working in both spaces because Te Awa o Te Atua particularly has remained centre focus point in both of these spaces. And so it should, because how are we to restore the mauri of Tarawera Awa ki Te Awa o Te Atua if we can't address the paru that's currently going into Te Awa o Te Atua and has been for a long time. It's not new to the Matata community. The Matata community wants action. They want to be able to look out over the Matata Lagoon, Te Awa o Te Atua, and know that the name Te Awa o Te Atua is honoured, that the history and the essence of Te Awa o Te Atua and the legacy that is that water body is acknowledged and respected. And so that forms a core motivation for how we have crafted 14 strategic objectives in the Tarawera Awa restoration. It's still in draft form, but we've had incredible support through our co-design group. In the same way that co-design has been, working so well in the Matata Wastewater project, it has been replicated in the Tarawera Awa Restoration Strategy Group. So we've got 14 strategic objectives in there. All 14 apply to the Tarawera Awa catchment. However, 4 specifically target Te Awa o Te Atua. We know that we need to elevate Te Awa o Te Atua because of the historical contamination and grievance that the iwi that have strong affiliations with Te Awa o Te Atua hold, and they have been vocal for many, many years, for decades, through time. This is intergenerational kaupapa that the 4 iwi that have relationships with that space have been trying to progress for the sake of the health of Te Awa o Te Atua. So just very high level, we've got 3 themes for the Tarawera Awa Restoration Strategy. That is, and I'm just going to read it if I could, and starting with the vision, because I think that's really important for us to be reminded that the Tarawera Awa Restoration Strategy has legislative weight. We need to take heed of that legislative weight, and so that all comes under the overarching vision, which is the waters of the Tarawera Awa ki Te Awa o Te Atua flow in a state of mauri order. Their restored life and vitality from source to sea have enticed the majestic kōtuku to return to its home waters. We need to restore the mauri of Te Awa o Te Atua. If we can't collectively do that, then we fail Ngāti Rangitahi's settlement, the legislative weight of that. We fail all of the iwi that have relationships through time with that space, and we also fail the Matata community and everyone who has a special relationship with that space. So our 3 core themes are resilient tile, restoring healthy water flows and biodiversity and embedding mātauranga Māori alongside conventional science and decision making. Theme 2, strong relationships, honouring cultural connection, fostering collective purpose and deepening relationships with the awa. And theme 3, thriving ecosystems and communities, supporting sustainable kai gathering, clean and safe waterways, vibrant local economies, and recognition of the awa as a valued visitor destination for all. Collectively, we can make this decision to bring back the mauri of Te Awa Te Atua and bring honour to that name. Kia ora koutou.
You.
Yeah, kia ora, Kerry and Francis. I just wanted to add, before I talk about the spatial plan, throughout the development of the project, we have been undertaking environmental monitoring. It's about 3 or 4 years worth of data. We've actually stopped it now because we've got enough data. And that was really because there wasn't a long record of data collection. I'm talking about water quality monitoring in Matata. There had been on and off monitoring, but we've undertaken an extensive monitoring program, and that's been reviewed by members of the technical team, experts in their fields, and they, in their reports, have confirmed that there is widespread contamination from human wastewater in the lagoon and in the waters downstream of Matata. And that was peer reviewed by ESR, who had done an earlier peer review back in 2012, or a review 2012, and in their updated review they confirmed or supported the findings of those reports. So when Kerry and Francis are talking about the need to improve the quality of the awa, that is also informed by that monitoring that's been undertaken for this project. And we can see the clear benefits in terms of the settlement, the treaty settlement, and the cultural significance of this project. In terms of the spatial plan, and that was the plan that was endorsed by this council in June, or approved by the council and the other Eastern Bay councils in June, that confirmed Matata as a priority growth area. So it's recognising that it is a suitable area for growth. Through the development of the spatial plan, we actually reduced the growth forecast for Matata. At one stage, one of the scenarios for growth was for a substantially higher number, but through feedback and engagement with the community, we've actually just looked at what the capacity of the current residential zone is in Matata. So that growth we see in Matata is really just about growth that would occur within the existing residential zone. So we're not looking at any plan changes there. What is holding back the growth in the town is the lack of a reticulated wastewater system. Subject to getting a wastewater scheme in place, then that growth could grow up to about 600 to 700 homes in that order, depending on density of the housing. Most of that growth would actually occur in the eastern area of Matata, and that's almost all Māori freehold land. So it actually enables the development of papakaianga and housing, and essentially provides for people to be able to return to the area by providing the right sort of housing. So that's what growth in town really means, but it is identified through the council plan, spatial plan, as a growth area, and to enable that we need a wastewater scheme. So I guess the benefits of the Matata wastewater project, it's built around, and Alex, I'll get you to skip forward if you wouldn't mind. It's actually built around a number of outcomes. So it's around environmental wellbeing, public health outcomes. There's also the cultural outcomes that Francis and Kerry spoke so well about. It supports the growth aspirations in line with the spatial plan. But we've also, and this is one of the options that Te Neotanga actually prefer, is actually right-sizing the infrastructure. So not looking at building anything too big or expensive, it's actually having something that's appropriate for the community and for the size of the community. but it's one that's also sustainable and resilient, and so that it is a scheme that will be affordable. We would be making sure there aren't adverse environmental effects from it. That would be a key part to build into, to develop through the resource consent strategy and any further investigations, and that would inform potentially a future resource consent application. So there's three options. Option one is a maintenance zone. I'll just explain a bit about what that means. So at the moment, under the Regional Council on-site effluent treatment plan, they've identified Matata as what's called a confirmed reticulation zone. That is, it's an area where Council has previously committed, I'm talking about our Council, to a wastewater scheme, and so the expectation is there's a wastewater scheme going in place. If we don't develop a wastewater scheme, then the Regional Council would have to do a plan change to their on-site effluent treatment plan. That plan references a couple of standards, NZS 1546 and 1547. Both of those are to do with the design and construction of septic tanks, in the case of 1546. 1547 is around disposal of wastewater. And I should add, there already is a wastewater scheme in Matata. It's septic tanks, and it's not really appropriate for the area. It's no one's fault. It's just because of the geology and the hydrogeology of the area, it's just not very appropriate. And the monitoring program is found in the technical reports that proves that. Under those two standards, 1546 and 1547, those set standards around what septic tanks need to achieve in the effluent disposal fields. So our technical team has looked at that and found that there's roughly around 95 properties that wouldn't meet those standards. If the Regional Council, if this was the option that was taken forward, the Regional Council would need to go through a plan change. As part of that plan change, they would need to look at a number of options for what that means in terms of those tanks that don't meet those standards. And they don't meet them because of the area of land available for soakage or proximity to streams. That's why. It's not about the tanks themselves, it's really about those disposal fields. In determining that plan change, the Regional Council would consider the costs and benefits of different options, and essentially they may end up in the trade-off between how much upgrades or other measures to do versus how much human waste they're prepared to allow to remain in the receiving waters. And essentially that's the trade-off. That's what option one means. Option two is, this is the type of scheme that we were looking at earlier in the process. That on the screen there is the Rotoiti Rotomā wastewater plant. It's a new plant, it's a very advanced system, high level of treatment. It's also very expensive, and it would suit a larger growth forecast. So if we were looking at the earlier spatial plan growth forecast that was in one of those scenarios, that's the type of scheme that's probably more appropriate for that level of growth. So it's very high level of treatment, but very expensive as well. And one of the outcomes that we were looking at is right-sizing the infrastructure to meet the growth requirements. And so option three, which is the option, Te Neotanga is the preferred option. This is actually a more moderate treatment plant, or treatment system. And that example up there is from Jack's Point in Queenstown, and that essentially is the entire plant. It's a packed bed system. It's very modular, so it can be upgraded over time or expanded over time. Not upgraded, but expanded with more modules added to it. And that is, it's a lower cost, so it's a more moderate cost, but it's actually, the Te Neotanga group have seen that that's probably the right type of treatment system for this size of community and the growth forecast for this community. So it actually would reduce the overall cost of the scheme because the treatment is cheaper. And it's modular, so it can be just expanded over time as the community grows. So you wouldn't build it initially for between, the 600 to 700 homes. It could be built in stages. You might do 300 homes. There's about 260 homes now in Matata, roughly. So you might do that plus a bit more, or you could go to 400 homes. There's different levels, and that is something that, subject to this option being endorsed, we would then look at, well, how do we stage it and how do we develop it over time. We also think that with improving the drainage and doing potentially some recontouring of the Tahi Hill farm, which is the farm that council owns, we purchased, we actually wouldn't need any additional land to irrigate. We could do it all within the footprint of the current farm, and that would be including up to 700 homes. So no additional land purchase required. It's really around how we can maximise the use of that land. So in terms of next steps, subject to endorsement of the preferred option, there's actually a number of work streams that we would get underway, and that would include those ones there, the 7 work streams you see, and it's really around actually getting that detail of what the scheme would look like and getting that ready to go towards a consent application, as well as the various funding decisions. But those would be subject to future meetings of the Infrastructure Planning Committee or the equivalent committee under the new triennium. And we would regularly report, like we have done for the last 3 years, to this committee. That's the end of our presentation, Mr. Chair. So I might hand it back to you, if we could.
Mayor Luca and then Deputy Mayor Emmett. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, to the members of Te Aotanga o Matata o Te Arawa, tēnā koutou. To the people of Matata, welcome to our chamber. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. And I want to acknowledge the Chair's comments around this as a co-design process, the importance of that, the significance of that for us as a council, as a model going forward for how we engage with tangata whenua and how we engage with communities. My question is around some of the environmental monitoring that's been done over a period of time, because there's some, what I think is misinformation being spread in the community that the problems with the contamination of the waterways in Matata has been solved by the introduction of a new septic tank at the Matata pub. My understanding is that that's not correct. Could you please confirm for me what is what impact has the new septic tank at the Matata pub had, if any?
So amongst the monitoring sites that we've been monitoring for the last 3 years is what we've called an unnamed drain at 53 Aroa Street. It's actually surface water site 13 in the monitoring program, and so my understanding is that Matata pub system went in around May 2023, or around that, so middle of 2023. We monitored it through to the start of 2024, and you're looking at the data, there's no discernible change in the quality. It's still, every time we've sampled that one and done fecal source tracking, it's confirmed human source for the wastewater. So.
Thank you, because your answer leads me to another question, which is that you have been able to track human contamination compared to other animal contamination, and that confirms that human contamination is coming out of Matata Township and contaminating the surface water and groundwater in Matata. Correct?
Yeah, so when we do environmental monitoring, we're essentially looking at a number of different indicators, different parameters that we measure. So for looking at evidence of human waste, you can look at bacteria counts or nutrient as well. And there's a number of different bacteria that you'll look at. E. coli is one that's commonly used. We also look at fecal coliforms. And what we've done is we've found that those bacteria levels are elevated. We've then got those samples tested for what's called fecal source tracking, or fecal indicator bacteria. It's quite an expensive way of treating it. I mean, one of the beauties of E. coli, it's quite cheap and easy to do. once you get into more sophisticated analysis, the cost ramps up. And one of the reasons we stopped doing monitoring last year was we had 3 years of monitoring data, and it's expensive to do. We didn't really want to spend much more money. We felt we had enough, and that was, advice from the technical experts on the team. So we have done fecal source tracking, and that was reviewed by the aquatic environmental team at NIWA. They were the experts, right? So it's and they confirmed in their report that they found that there is evidence of widespread human wastewater contamination in the lagoons and that drain and in other sites as well. Yeah, and it's ongoing. It hasn't changed.
Thank you very much.
Luca?
With regards to maintenance zones, I've kept hearing that 95 properties need to be removed if a maintenance zone is applied. I've been trying to understand what the maintenance zone means. And I've been talking with experts at the Bay of Plenty Regional Council. Application of a maintenance zone doesn't seem to mean that automatically 95 properties need to be removed. But some of those septic systems were approved by council significantly earlier than the new standards come in, right?
I'm not sure on the dates of those 95 septic systems.
Well,
I mean,
they've been there for a long time. My question is it retrospective? Like if a septic system goes in and then the standard comes in later, does that mean that those properties need to, surely it doesn't mean that they need to be removed just because a new standard came in, given that they've been there for a long time?
So to do... Yeah, sure, I'll pass to you.
Kia ora, ko Hiratsi Takuingoa. I'm a wastewater engineer and I've been working on this project for the last 3.5-4 years with the team. So regarding the properties that had been identified, that 95, so the situation, if it is a change to a maintenance zone, would be there would be maintenance requirements put in place on the properties that the regional council would need to put in place. And then ongoing monitoring would need to carry on to find out, well, has this solved the problem? And given the situation that we have there, then more maintenance on those existing septic tank systems is not going to resolve the underlying issue. So then the Bay of Plenty Regional Council will need to look further and say, okay, well, where do we go from here? And under the offset plan, if the regional council were to determine that we have a problem, which we know we do because the monitoring has been showing us that it has, then options for the individual properties to come up to spec with the offset plan, they would need to be able to meet Australia New Zealand Standard 1547 for the installation of on-site effluent treatment systems. And that is where there are very clear requirements around setback distances from waterways and a maximum application rate in terms of millimetres per day of wastewater onto the system. So that is where the sort of 300, I can't remember the exact numbers, 336 to 500-ish square metres would be required to be able to have a disposal field large enough to meet the new AS and NZS standards. So that is where those 95 properties would not be able to meet them. And that was just based on looking at the development of sections. So quite a lot of the sections are quite developed, so they simply do not have that amount of area available. There are the ones in close proximity to the stream. They would not be able to have a disposal field far enough away from the streams to meet the standard. In reality, there would probably be more than those that would not be able to install complying systems because of high groundwater levels, etc., in the area. So hopefully that answers your question.
So for whatever reason they don't meet the standards, does that mean that those properties have to be removed?
It's a question for people far above myself. But so in the discussions that we've had with Toitiora Public Health and Bay of Plenty Regional Council, it's around, we have obligations to be providing systems which are, safe and safe for human habitation, or properties that are safe for human habitation. So if the properties are not safe for human habitation, then yes, that is the reality. Who would make that decision? I don't know.
Right, but the property, whatever it is, hypothetical property, has been there for, say it's been there for 20 years, unchanged, and it has been fit for human habitation for 20 years, all of a sudden is non-fit.
Well, I think given all of the work that's been done in the Matata Wastewater scheme for over 20 years, we know there has been a long-standing problem. So I think that kind of answers the question about fit for habitation over a period of time.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Chair, and hello everyone again. My question, I think it's for Nick, is a little bit about the money, and I appreciate that whatever the decision today is about a preferred option. You mentioned in 2004 the Health Department gave, I think, $7 million as a tag for upgrading the system. The two parts of that question is, A, has or will that appreciate from back then? I was hoping you'd nod that way. And the second thing is, are we at risk of that not being honoured for any reason if we vacillate about a decision?
Yes, so the money hasn't appreciated, and yeah, we are at risk of losing that money if we don't have a decision. I mean, David has spoken with the Ministry of Health recently about that.
Yeah, if I can just add to that. Yeah, I had a few conversations with the Ministry of Health over the last couple of years. We are the last scheme in the country that still has money held for us. It is a tenuous link at the moment. They've been very kind in terms of providing that information. I think part of the purpose of trying to get a resolution today that refers to a resource consent strategy is to give a degree of confidence to the Ministry of Health that we are still working and actively working to try and retain that money. Yep.
All right, thank you very much.
So we have Councillor James, then Councillor Dennis, and then Councillor Poynting. Thank you, Councillor James.
Yeah, morning, and thanks very much for the report. My question is, regardless of whether it's a health hazard or not, is there evidence around the village of surface seepage? And if so, how bad, and could it become a risk?
Are you meaning seepage from the septic tanks, or just groundwater seeping out of the?
Well, groundwater coming out, but presumably it's got some.
Yes,
something
there is.
from
So,
septic tanks.
I mean, sort of from the fire station round behind the pub, there's a clear seepage, and there's drains that are actually cut in to collect that, and that drains through that unnamed drain, 53 Aroa Street, Surface Water Site 13, around the pub. So that is actually collecting a whole lot of the seepage that is emerging out of there. There's also further to the west, there are seeps right through town there. Yeah, and it's just the nature of the geology of the area.
Thank you.
Councillor Dennis.
I've just got two questions. One's clarification of the maintenance zone. You're talking about the maintenance zone being imposed if we don't do a reticulation. Will that maintenance zone just be applied to those 95 odd sections that don't meet the OSET rules, or would they apply the maintenance zone to the whole town?
It's the whole town. The whole town is confirmed reticulation zone. If that's not going ahead, then the whole town would be a maintenance zone. So those requirements would apply to the whole town.
So does that then mean that every septic tank in town would have to upgrade to the correct size and to the correct filters and things like that?
Not necessarily initially, because the regional council would then need to do more monitoring to understand whether the maintenance zone has been effective, and if the maintenance zone isn't effective, which I mean, our monitoring shows what is happening currently. A little bit more maintenance on the systems is not going to change that. Then they will have to look further at how the systems in the whole of Matata.
But don't the new
comply.
OSET rules say you have to have a manhole at ground level? Don't the new OSET rules say that you have to have fine fibre filter in the outlet?
Yeah, I'm not sure on the exact details of that one.
Thank you. So just for my second question, Mr Chair, when we were talking about the Councillor Tanshos's question about the unnamed drain by the pub, I see that some other people have looked at the Waimea stream, which sits above it, and the test points SW3 and SW5. The Waimea stream actually doesn't go anywhere near the pub. It actually sits on top of the escarpment by the football field and still has some faecal count. But yet there's a seep below that in Warbrick Terrace which has quite high, and leaches into the drain, and yet that has quite high human faecal matter in it. Why is there a difference? There's only a little bit in the stream that sits above, and yet the seep has quite a lot in it.
Yeah, without having the details in front of me, I can't talk too much to it, other than just highlighting once again that the technical team who have looked at the monitoring data have concluded that there's widespread evidence of human contamination, wastewater contamination in the waters downstream.
Thank you.
Councillor Boyden. And then Councillor Isles.
O tēnā rā koutou katoa I mihi atu kia koutou nā maruhi I kua tai mai nei nā iwi, kua tai mai nei tēnei wāhi, te wāhi o te kaunihira. Tēnei te mihi nui mō te mahi nui ki te whakatōkotahitanga nā iwi me nā hāpori o Matata, ki te whakapai, tēnei paru, ki te whakatika, tēnei take, tēnei te mihi. Kia ora, thank you so much for all that you have brought in the room, everyone here today, our iwi, also our Matata community and whānau who have been living with this for such a long time. So thank you for being in the room with us today. My pātai relates to asking, you mentioned around the breaches that the council may be under its obligations to Ngāti Ranatihi. And I also heard as well breaches that we may have as a council with regards to that Health Act and that legislation and the obligations we have. Given that, I'm not sure who would answer. Would there be a financial cost to the council or action taken in a legal sense, I guess, if the council were to breach any of these obligations, legal obligations that we have?
I'm not sure.
No.
Yeah.
Gosh. I mean, I guess it's open to anybody to challenge any decision that we either make or don't make. And so I think, we make decisions under legislation every day around whatever we are doing as a council. So I think in broad terms, we can't give you a categorical answer. Would we be in breach and therefore liable? It would require somebody to take some action against us on a particular decision or lack of decision we've made. So there's a nice vague answer for you.
Supplementary.
Sorry, can I just add to that, David? So under Ngāti Rangitihi's Treaty Crown Settlement, there is, with the development of the strategy itself, it talks to a couple of major points. One is around a Crown apology for breaching its ability to be held responsible through our councils to help support and do clean-up and restoration work on tarawera awa ki te awa o te atua. That's part of what the strategy is being developed around. And that for ourselves as the project team who is creating the strategy and being supported and approved by the task forum, which this council sits on, is that they are making a commitment and putting their hands up to be held responsible to help support the restoration and protection of tarawera awa all the way through to Te Awa o Te Atua. So when we think about that, we know that legally there is a responsibility and accountability on behalf of Whakatane District Council to be involved and participate and support the restoration of our awa. That then talks about the reticulation scheme, because that's one of the components of how we will be able to restore the mauri of tarawera awa ki te awa o te atua.
Thank you.
Kia ora.
Just supplementary. With regards to and it's following on around costs, looking at costs, with regards to houses, if houses were to be placed under the maintenance zone, and what we've heard here today, that would extend beyond the 90 and mean that the whole township would be considered, would we get to a point where those whānau may have to leave those homes and that the council would need to either compensate those residents if they had to leave? Sorry, David, it's one of my questions again.
Yeah, and that's probably a similar answer, really. Firstly, I think we're just on this 95 homes and what it all means. I think we just have to be a bit careful that the maintenance zone is actually the responsibility of the regional council. And I think in terms of us trying to answer questions about how the regional council might put in place a maintenance zone and what that all means and how it would roll out, I just think we just need a degree of caution around putting words into other people's mouths. I think in terms of if houses have to be removed, the whole issue of how that occurs would need to be a further conversation between parties. I mean, I think it will get down to who's responsible again for what. And again, the maintenance zone would be primarily a regional council responsibility. We may have some obligations in terms of Health Act and the like, so we may have a part to play. But I just think it's I can't give you an answer on the spot about, would we have to pay out or would we not?
Thank you. I just wanted to try and find that information so we can see that if things didn't move forward, what we might be getting ourselves into. Thank you.
But before I invite Councillor Isles, I've just been advised there's going to be a fire alarm test at 10:15, so just keep an eye out. So yeah, quickly ask your question, Councillor Isles. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Actually, my question follows on a little bit from the comment that was made by David there. If Regional Council were to impose a maintenance zone, that would come at their expense. Again, have we approached or have we had a table conversation with Regional Council if they would come to the party to help implement one of the other two options that we're considering today?
Yeah, so you might remember through the LTP conversations and particularly the Regional Council's LTP process, the group submitted to the Regional Council seeking funding support. That support wasn't forthcoming. I think it was $15 million was what we were asked for, so it's quite a reasonably substantial sum of money. More recently, we have had conversations with the Regional Council about exactly that point. They haven't gone far enough to be able to say whether they would support perhaps a lesser figure or not, but I think in terms of a decision today, if that is to progress, then that is part of the work stream that we would continue with. We'll be looking to all external funding sources, if you like, to try and help support the project. And I think there is a benefit to the Regional Council that we can show, of course, through an alternative proposal to them having to do what they need to otherwise do.
Thank you. Supplementary, if I may. Have we looked or are we looking at any other external funding options, or have any been shored up?
Well, I think the only other one that is shored up is the Ministry of Health's subsidy at this point. In terms of broader subsidies from particularly central government agencies, they're pretty far and thin at the moment. So, that is, and I guess the Ministry of Health is a government-supported subsidy. So,
Thank you.
Luca?
You mentioned that the pub septic system was replaced in May of 2023.
I read that somewhere, but I don't have the date in front of me, but that's what I understand. It was around that period of time.
Why do you think it was replaced?
I'm not sure the details of what their old system was and what the new one is, but that was a matter of the regional council requirements.
Because if you look at the data, you can see that the focal point of human contamination in Matata is really around that area of the pub. And as Councillor Dennis suggested, the drain at 53. But the pub septic system was not working properly, that's why it was replaced. And actually you can see in the data that it's improved greatly. But that's why you replace it, because it's not working. I presume.
The technical reports that we had commissioned say something different, so that's what I can say to that.
Councillor O'Brien?
Yes, just on the maintenance, and if Burberry Regional Council are testing of this resident sewage system to meet the offset compliance, they're saying, well, it's speculated that council would cover those costs of doing those tests. Would they, or would those be targeted rates for Matata residents in the future? Yes, cost of the maintenance and cost of doing the testing.
That would be something the regional council would need to determine how they did that through their plan change process. Yeah, so I couldn't say what that will be, but they would need to consider that and come up with some decisions around how that was funded. It might be on owners, on individual property owners, or it might be something else, I'm not sure.
All right, thank you.
So no further questions. I'd like to...
I've got a question. It refers to the step systems. Who will own the step systems in the proposed system that's going to be put in there? Are they going to be owned and maintained by the property owner, or is it?
It's a good question. Long story short, that's part of the detail that we need to work through in the next phase, subject to the decision today, is actually how a scheme would work, and that would include things like who owns those systems, what sort of access requirements might be required. There's a bit to work through in terms of that detail, but there's nothing determined yet. Yes.
So this is really looking for approval to get a consent. And so in order to get to that consenting stage, you need to know what you're consenting, don't you?
We're seeking approval to develop the consenting strategy and to start doing the detailed work to inform a future resource consent application. It's really working out some of that detail and what the scheme would look like, as well as the funding and financing of it, including other sources of funds potentially, including the regional council. So it's actually to do the detailed work to come up with some of the options for that.
Okay, I think I understand. Can I ask another question, please? It relates to contamination again. We're doing monitoring of fecal indicator bacteria counts, right? We did it over a year period. And you would have noticed that in both the Waimea, especially the Waimea, which is the worst of the streams, that the fecal indicator bacteria counts, these are surrogates, right? These are proxies for pathogens. They are an order of magnitude higher above the town than they are below the town during the summer periods. What do you think that's caused by?
Look, there's a range of data, and I'm no expert in fecal indicator bacteria, but I rely on the expert reports that we had commissioned, including the one by NIWA and the Aquatic Environmental Health, and they've confirmed that yes, there are a range of different sources in there, but there is widespread, fecal contamination from humans. In their report, they also note that the what they call the disease burden from human waste is a bit different from animal waste, and that those the viruses that are found in human waste affect humans, is the easy way of saying it. I mean, all waste is bad, right? You don't want anything in your water, but human waste is worse because it's actually viruses and diseases that are present in the human population.
So are you accepting then that the degree of animal contamination in the streams is higher than the human component?
No, I mean, look, once again, all I'm saying is that through the testing, there are a range of different sources that were identified, including human waste. Whether it's, and the report from NIWA identifies that it's there, it's present, and that there's a health risk associated with that. The actual technical details, I don't think we need to get into. I'm not an expert in it, but we have experts on board.
Councillor Rangiao.
Tēnei te mihi atu ki a koutou I tā mai nei. Ki te kawe tēnei kaupapa I mua o tātou aroaro. Greetings to you all and to our Matata community. While I'm listening to all of this monitoring and there's all these fecal matters, I kind of go the other side because I'm seeing opportunity in here. I'm seeing opportunity while we're saying who does the monitoring. And, you know, we are these scientists. I'm seeing the opportunity that you might have had a discussion in terms of education in the co-design group around building your capacity of students' education program, because I do know that the Regional Council does put up scholarships. And if there was an opportunity to build that capacity of your youth of today, because we're looking far ahead, I'm just wondering whether that has been a kind of a factor or consideration in terms of your co-design. You're going to build Matata with these scientists, but not only with scientists, it's a job opportunity, but it's truly taking care of your community, and you still have the components of tō tātou ao Māori while acknowledging you know what I mean, is acknowledging te Māori o te wai. And sometimes it doesn't require numbers, because when we speak of Māori in some sense, and just as an example, Papa, it's just one of those things that's, it's more of an emotional intelligence, it's more of a moral compass, hey? And so when we get into those restoration programs, we can see the clarity of the water. Those are indicators, those are the kind of indicators as qualitative researchers that we look at. You see the wealth, the growing, the well-being of that water. It also brings to, let's allow our kids, under the national policy statement, it's always talking about swimmable water, drinkable water. So if we get that water, that level of that water in our lagoons and where they play, you know, the outcome of that, or what is the evidence of that, is actually the sound of laughter. Because our kids are playing, you know, they can swim in a place when they come out, they're not going to come out with scabs, they're not going to come out with something, but they're coming to know they're of a place that they can enjoy. And that's what it should be allowed, you know. Every small community should be allowed to enjoy the environment. So have you fellas considered something?
Kia ora whainga pira, tōtahi me mihi atu kia koe mō tērā, kōrero, hira mā tātou. And I'm really cognizant we probably only have 2 minutes. There we go, it's gone off. Okay, so maybe Paurotu and I can answer this question. I'll start with currently under Te Mana o Ngāti Rangitahi, we have a cultural monitoring program. We have our cultural monitors that have been monitoring different parts of Tarawera Awa right through to Te Awa o Te Atua. Only 2, Tokorua o Rāua, hei kinaki mai ana kia hei whakahāpaitia I tēnei o ngā kaupapa. So what they're doing is they're monitoring for us, but under a mātauranga a Ngāti Rangitahi, Māori nei lens, which is, has its own framework that we have built over time around our conceptual framework on what does the Māori or Te Wai look like for us. And a lot of that has been built around that knowledge base through the likes of Dr. Pauroto, Matua Tipene and others who are sitting in this room, Laito Hall and William Stutter and others. So on the ground, 2 cultural monitors that we have under Te Mano Ngāti Rangiti, we need more. And so we are beginning, we're at the beginning of working with Awanuiarangi, with their tauira to try and bring them on so that we have a plethora of not only mātauranga a Māori minds to be able to complement the current data, scientific base, but Māori science, to be able to support what it is that we see, as you said, for being good kaitiaki and having quality of water so that it is drinkable and it is swimmable. So koera tā mātou. But I'm going to give a pitch to ourselves as well as Regional Council that we need more pūtea to stand up more of our monitors. But I'll give this over to Pauroto. Kia ora.
Thank you. Councillor Dennis, last question.
Kia ora. So part of the holistic approach that we've worked diligently together is also recognition not only of the science but the Mātauranga Māori perspective, which includes our taha wairua, the connection to the spiritual life force of the awa, Mātauranga e pāna ki o tātou tipuna, the knowledge of our ancestors. So that's been an important, integral part of the whole approach. And we've looked at a model that's appropriate for us, a model that encapsulates the Ngāti Rangitihi perspective, a model that encapsulates the Ngāti Awa perspective of knowledge, as well as tūwhare ki kawerau. So, and then we presented that model, and it's called Te Māori Iho Iho. How do we restore the Māori back to how it was before the contamination, before what we're dealing with now? And we presented it to the community, and they all came on board, and we're supportive of that holistic approach towards how we do things. So, yeah, the potential of recognising science, but Mātauranga Māori science, and also education, not just for our kids but for ourselves too, because this whole thing is an enduring protector of the life force, not only of the contaminated sites that we're talking about, but actually the whole of the Tarawera River catchment area and the whole of Te Awa Te Atua. Simply, ka ora te Māori, ka ora te tangata. And we've made that as one of our main visions. If the life force of the river and of the area and the environment is well, then we're well, the people are well. This is an intergenerational approach. It's not LTP. This is forever. So our position, Councillor Rangiaho, as you've mentioned earlier, and I just wanted to say that having our Māori voice today has also brought out that paradigm within the discussions, Councillor O'Brien and Councillor Boynton. That is the approach that we must take, we have to take, in honouring Te Tiriti o Waitangi. Simple as that. And that's what I think Matata is transforming and changing, and can see that, our whole approach must be a holistic one.
Yes.
And education for our young people, but also for us too. There's a lot of things we do not know in Mātauranga Māori space. So it's bringing that reality to life. And I think the next phase will enable that, Councillor John Puller, this will assist us, and we need Council to support us, to see all the paradigms, as a holistic approach, for the health and the well-being of the Māori of the wai. If that's well, then ka ora te Māori o te tangata. Kia ora tātou.
Thank you, Brody. It's an important point you make about learning, because we're always learning and still need to learn. So, yeah, thank you for that. Councillor Dennis, we'll just make this the last question and then we can move on.
Thank you, Chair. I've just got two questions to ask, and I was going to ask the panel there, do you think you had the full support of Ngāti Rangatuhi? But I do see the CEO of Te Mano Ngāti Rangatuhi there. I see the Manager Francis of the Environment for Te Mano. I see a couple of trustees. I see Auntie Freda Simmons and Auntie Whakatoria Whauwasa down there. Maybe I should ask you, do we have the full backing of the people of Ngāti Rangatuhi to do this? Just my second one, I know that in 2015 when I was on the Rangataiki Community Board and Chairman of the Residents Association Matata, I was asked by Council to go and do a survey around town about how many of those people in Matata that wanted to have reticulated sewage, all the residents. And out of the 263 houses, 257 said yes. The 5 who said no had just put new systems in. Do you, the panel, think that you still have the full support of the residents of Matata to do this?
I think you've got your answer, Councillor.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, if we can move to the recommendations, and I propose that we take 1 and 2 together, and I'll just read them before I call for a mover and a seconder. That the Infrastructure and Planning Committee received the Matata Wastewater Project Update August 2025 report, and that the Infrastructure and Planning Committee notes the recommended wastewater system option for Matata from the Tinari o Matatawa a Tiaroa co-design group is option 3. So I have a mover, Councillor Tanjos, Councillor Dennis. Any debate? Mayor Luca.
Well, thank you, everybody, and welcome to this meeting. I've had the pleasure of sitting on the Tarawera Awa Restoration Strategy Group for the term, for my term, and I've got to say that I've really enjoyed it, and I don't say things if I don't mean them. They've been great meetings. I also like to speak my mind, and I appreciate that you guys, listen. There's many reasons for doing things, and you guys have brought to the table another aspect that's not science. I'm a science guy, so I've got that data, and I've gone through all of the science in microscopic detail. But that's only one of the aspects, right? There's also the issue of whether or not Matata should grow or not. I'm not a big fan of growing that much because we like it because it's small. And there's the environmental improvement. I worked on the Tarawera River as my first job for council back in 1979 when it was a black drain. That's not acceptable. It has been greatly improved. I'm not sure if we've totally restored the Māori of the Tarawera, but we're on that path and we should always try and improve the environment. But just talking to the science part of it, which is my forte anyway, we got drip-fed data over a period of several years, and I packaged it up and looked at it hard and came to my conclusions. I sent my review to the foremost expert in environmental microbiology at ESR. My conclusion was in line with the 2012 report that Nick referred to, which says that there was no significant environmental health issues in Matata at that time. We've done a lot of work since then, and my conclusion based on the current data was the same, and this particular scientist at ESA is their top person in that area, didn't say, I'm wrong. Is there room for improvement? There is. The focal point, according to what I've seen, is around the pub, and that's been fixed, but not totally fixed. Not totally fixed, but it's certainly been improved. So it's not all about the science, and I just want to beg your indulgence while I read out the sentence from the this scientist. Don't worry, you won't be disappointed, probably. If I can just find it. And he says, as much as I like using science to understand the situation, my perhaps oversimple view is that if planning to expand the population of Matata to 1,500, then some sort of treatment plant is essential. If there is not expansion, then the need to address the issues of some properties exists. I've got tremendous respect for this guy, and I think he's pretty much on the money. I'll just finish by saying that I'm prepared to support going to the next step because there is $7 million on the table from the Ministry of Health, and that would reduce our costs quite significantly. We are going to the consenting stage, and that's going to tease out some more of the issues that are particularly of concern to me. If you ask me, Matata is not if you want to densify Matata, it's risky because of events that have already happened in 1939 and 2005 and 2000 at the beginning of this year. But I'm prepared to go to the next step because that money's on the table, and I hope that I've got a lot of questions about the financial aspects and who pays for what, but I guess that's all going to be coming out in greater detail as we move forward. And I thank you for bringing your kaupapa to the table for listening. So thanks very much.
Sorry, through you, Mr Chair, can we go to the motion without undermining the process that we've had with all of the data that has been collected over the last 3 years? Can we go back to the motion? We understand what has just happened here with a report that has been spoken to, but we're thinking about all of the data that has been captured by our technicians, our technical people. Can we please go to the motion again, Sue, so that we can have it?
So that's the two motions. So that the Infrastructure and Planning Committee receive the Matata Wastewater Project Update August 2025 report, and that the Infrastructure and Planning Committee notes the recommended wastewater system option for Matata from the Tinaingatanga o Matata o Te Arawa co-design group is option 3.
That's what.
It's only receiving and noting.
Yes.
There's not really any debate. It's the next one.
Okay, that's those two. I mean, there's another one here which we'll deal with in a minute, but so is, I had Councillor Boynton and then Councillor James.
I'll remove that for the next motion, please.
Thank you. Councillor James.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I support both these two motions, and the sooner we actually get into this project, the better.
Thank you. So we have the mover and the seconder, and Councillor Tanjos and Councillor Dennis. So I'll now put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carry. Thank you. So item 3, Your Worship, do you wish to?
Oh, actually, I was speaking to item 3. I think I jumped the gun somewhere.
We did realise it.
Oh, yeah, okay, all right. Never mind. Okay, no, I'm done for now, thanks.
So we'll go from that. So under item 3, We have three options. So I'm going to ask you, I'm going to go through them, ask you to raise your hand if you support that option, and then we'll end up with an answer at the end.
Yep.
So option A, item A is option 1. Is any support for that, councillor around the table? No. Option 2 is the large advanced scale project. Any appetite for that? No. So option 3, the moderate intermediate scale. Appetite for that? Thank you.
Aye.
The motion, I'll read the motion, that the Infrastructure and Planning Committee endorses a preferred wastewater system option for Matata being option 3, moderate intermediate scale, and endorse the Matata wastewater project moving to the consenting strategy development phase with this preferred option. So do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Dennis?
Yeah.
Councillor Tanzos?
Okay.
So any debate?
No.
Deputy Mayor Emick and then Councillor Boynton.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Look, I just wanted to thank everyone that's been involved to get it to this stage today. I am voting in option 3, but I also want to thank the Matata community. Like when I first came into council in 2019, even before being elected, they made it their business to check that any councillors or mayors that were running came and found out about what was happening at Matata and the need for a new wastewater system and potentially reticulation. They've given me regular invitations to all of their residents' meetings, and I'm sorry I haven't been to many of them in the last triennium. But they've got a really strong online community presence as well, and so I've been able to keep up to date with their progress from there. I also want to thank the Tarawea Awa Strategy Group. It's been a real privilege to be working with you all. And I do believe it's an opportunity by approving this and hopefully taking it through to the next levels, that it does create ecotourism opportunities and a really great educational story. And I'd like the end outcome of that story to be perhaps Te Abo o Te Atua having legal personhood, like Whanganui River and Te Uruwera. Now, Councillor Dennis has often made jokes at this table about Matata being the centre of the universe. Well, who knows? Maybe it all goes ahead. We might end up advocating and promoting that ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Boynton.
Wairua, waitata, waiora, maringiringi no ae. I just really wanted to speak to, we heard about what science is, but also to acknowledge the matauranga that is in the room, because that may be seen as a form of science, but it is a way of living and breathing. And when we think about the aspects of our wai and our awa, we physically cannot survive without it in our own bodies. The whole cycle of that process and how it comes to be in our environment and what it does to us impacts us physically as individuals, as whānau, as iwi, as hapu. And so when we ensure that if there is any interference in that process of ensuring that we have total well-being, then we are ensuring that we're looking after everyone. And if we are healthy and strong, that means whoever we bear and whoever are born future generations also have the greatest chance of that as well. And knowing that we are all connected in our rohe, that we will always be ensuring that if we are looking after one part, we are looking after all of us. So I totally, absolutely, without a doubt, support the kaupapa of ensuring that we go with option 3, because that is what our communities have put forward for themselves. I think the greatest story of this too is the lesson that we've seen in the due diligence of whānau and communities coming together, not in opposition, but in terms of finding a solution together, and how well that has worked, and just what a beautiful example that is. and the potential that has for it to spread across many of the other projects that we are engaged in. So proud. And so very proud of Councillor Dennis and his forever championing Matata, but also too he champions every other aspect within Aotearoa as well, with the same tenacity and the same passion. And it must be because he's from Matata. So I want to really mihi to all of you in the room, to all the iwi that came together, to all of those residents of Matata. Just how beautiful you all are, and thank you for this taonga. Kia ora.
Thank you, Councillor Boynan. Councillor Riles.
Thank you, Chair, and again, thank you to I know I'm the old hand that's been sitting around the table since 2004 when we first got the 6.7 subsidy from the Ministry of Health. I've also been sitting around the table through the duration of the various projects that have been put before the communities, through the council, the appeals and the loss and the indignity that you as a community have had to suffer while we try to navigate a way through these so-called pools of sewage that have been impacting your communities for so very long. I've supported this reticulated service all the way through my time on council. I'm hoping like hell, as I've been elected unopposed back to my Te Urua General Ward, that I can see this through to its entirety. So well done. And again, you know, like so many of the other councillors, the work that my mate Gavin Dennis has put in, and the ear bashing that we've had day in and day out, not only during this triennium, but for as long as he's been on council, you know, well done, Gav. And hopefully, again, we see this through to its completion during the next term. Kia ora.
Thank you, Councillor Riles. So, another Councillor Dennis.
I'll reserve my right to speak last as the mover. Thank you, sir. So now? Okay. Nando.
Oh, well, hang on a minute. So,
I think Councillor O'Brien was before me. Yeah.
so we've got Councillor O'Brien and then Councillor Tanjos and then Councillor Dukes and then it'll be your turn, Councillor Dennis. So, Councillor O'Brien.
Koe noi te whānau, o ngā tirangi ngā tiawa, te hapori o Matata, e toru te kau ngā tau i whawhai koutou o tēnei kaupapa. Ka re kore, whai muri o tēnei he wore anō. Koe noi e mohi ai koutou, kei kone e mātua tautoko ana i a koutou. Ka kahatonu, e nera ngā mehi ki a koutou o koutou ka, pāna ki tēnei kaupapa. Nei aku mehi ki a koutou katoa. Kia ora.
Kia ora too.
Councillor Tanjos.
So, first of all, I entirely support this motion. We are the district council. We're not the Whakatane town council, and we have to govern as the district council for our whole district, on behalf of our whole district. And so that's what we're doing today. I think there are a number of reasons why we need to support this. They've been presented to us today. We've heard about the restoration of the Māori, of Te Tarawera, ki te awa o te atua, and that's a critical issue. We've talked about the opportunity of facilitating population growth in Matata, and that's important. And I think that'll happen more rapidly than what we predict. I think once people are able to subdivide their sections, they'll start doing it quite rapidly. And I think it's quite possible to maintain the feeling of Matata as a small town, but still allow the population to grow. And that'll be good for Matata and it'll be good for our district. And also I think the science is really clear. Contrary to the Mayor, I think that the data is undeniable. The Mayor talked about the ESR report in 2012 saying that there was no significant environmental issues. That's not what I understand that report actually said. My understanding is that the report said that there wasn't the evidence to justify a reticulated sewage scheme because we'd hardly done any monitoring at that stage. We've now done extensive monitoring and the data is clear. This is not a new problem, but our understanding of the problem has changed. And as a result, we've seen the ESR peer review of the science being used by this panel. We've seen that information be peer reviewed, and ESR has come out and supported it and said, yes, they've confirmed the conclusions of those reports. We've heard that the installation of a new septic tank at the pub in Matata has not solved the problem of water contamination. It has not solved the problem. In fact, I understand some of the highest levels have been detected since that has been put in place. So we have to do something, and this is clearly the right thing to do and the way to move forward. I just want to acknowledge quickly the process. I think the process has been awesome. I've been privileged to be part of Te Niaotanga o Te Matata o Te Arawa, and it's been a great honour to be part of a really effective co-design process, working with tangata whenua in Matata. And I remember one of our early meetings, now Justice Lane Harvey taking us around and showing us the different sites around the rohe, Pauroto sharing enormous amounts of mātauranga, and other members of the panel who have shared knowledge, and it's been really, it's been a great privilege to be part of it. Like others, I want to quickly acknowledge Gavin Dennis, Councillor Dennis, who has been coming to our council before he was a member of the council. I remember the first time I ever saw him, he came and gave us a roasting about our lack of action on Matata. Then he got himself elected in to do something about it, and he has. But we've all been part of that journey too. He's done it because he's been able to get the tautoko of our whole council. So I want to thank the council. I want to thank all the panel members who've given so much time for such a great process. And I want to thank the people of Matata for not allowing us to forget you, for putting this on the table. And finally, I hope we're moving towards a resolution. Kia ora koutou.
Councillor Dukes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All the words have already been said for the reasons for supporting this project, so I won't reiterate them. So I'm just going to say thank you to everybody here and to everyone who has been involved in the project, and I'd like to thank you for your passion for this project, and it's that passion that I think it is going to get it across the line today. It's long overdue, so thanks to everyone.
So, Councillor Dennis, your right of reply.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to my fellow councillors for your nice words. You know, the key reason for us being here today is not because septic tanks aren't working in Matata, it's because all on-site effluent treatments don't work in Matata. And it's not just for the 3 years that this project team has been here, it's not been since 2004 when the health department jumped up and down. I've seen newspaper clippings that was collected by old Joy Parks back to the 1980s where they were trying to do sewage system back then. So this goes back 45 years. So it's about time we did something about it. And some people might say we can replace the septic tanks because they're broken or they're not emptied off enough or they're too small. If we replaced every septic tank in Matata, we would still have faecal matter leaching into the streams and into the lagoon. This whole reason is, of course, the groundwater is in strata levels and hits clay levels and tends to run to the nearest stream or to the lagoon. And those that aren't close to one of those will find that it's pooling in their section. I can take you to a person's place now that has electric fence wired off on most of his section so his kids don't go and play in the front yard because they end up with dirty feet. I can take you to a lady who in summer has to wear gumboots to hang her washing on the line. It's time we fix this. But I really want to thank the project team and how hard they've worked to continually, they haven't been mindset on one particular scheme, they've continued to work to try and make it adjustable economically for the people of Matata. You know, in our project team, we've got a wastewater system scientist and engineer who you heard speak today, Hugh. We've got environmental and groundwater engineers. We've got aquatic and environmental scientists who's a doctor. We have another doctor who's an aquatic ecology and ecotoxicology specialist. We have another doctor who's an environmental chemistry specialist and a doctor who's a water quality health scientist and microbiologist. And yet this team, by working together, have managed to bring us costs down to this option 3. So the preferred option is 22 million in today's dollars for 300 homes, down from 45 million. This, with a Ministry of Health subsidy of 6.7, brings the local share down to 15.3 million. That hasn't even tapped into the regional council. I've had private talks with regional councillors who are saying, come back and see us. I've had talks with our local MP who has said, come and see us when you got your resource consent and I'll support a letter to the Minister of Environment to get more money out of them. So it could come down quite a bit. You know, that equals $51,000 or less per house, not $220,000 per house like some mischievous people are trying to say to the general public. We are putting the scheme in for all 300 houses, not 100. Like all wastewater schemes, there'll be operating costs. These will be looked in detail through the consenting and funding strategy. But if you divide the operating costs of 223,000 by the 300,000, you get $743 a year, not 2,230 like some spurious people are saying, just to get votes. You know, Whakatane people are paying around 640, so it actually isn't that far different. I'm just finishing scenes here. So our experts have decades of experiences. They have engaged throughout the council's procurement process to make sure they've got the right experience, qualifications and skills. And every recommendation is backed by robust technical reports and independent expert advice. Why option 3? Of course, this project is not just about the sewage, it's about multiple community outcomes, including protecting the public health, the environment, the waterways, supporting growth and economic development, and the long-term well-being, and meeting Ngāti Rangatihi's treaty settlement desires. Option 3 would be more affordable to everyone and have less impact on the neighbours, and that's why I urge us all to vote for option 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Every project needs a champion and we have one here. And I think also what we've seen today is a template for how we're going to carry out projects in the future. So thank you for setting that in place, because it just shows that it can work and it works easily. So look forward to that in the future. So without further ado, I'll just reread the recommendation, which has been moved by Councillor Dennis and seconded by Councillor Tanjos. That the Infrastructure and Planning Committee endorses a preferred wastewater system option for Matata being option 3, moderate, intermediate scale, and endorse the Matata wastewater project moving to the consenting strategy development phase with this preferred option. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. So we'll take a recess now till 11 o'clock. So members of the public, if you wish to move on and do other things, thank you for your attendance.
There's also a cup of tea in the next room.
There's a cup of tea in the next room, people.
excuse me.
So do you want to introduce or we'll?
I'll just speak to Nicholas.
Okay, yeah, so floor is yours, Nicholas and Jess, welcome.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'm going to pass this one to Jess. I've done enough talking.
Good morning, Koto. So at the last Infrastructure and Planning Committee meeting, both the program plan and the comms and engagement strategy were endorsed. Following that meeting, as the project or the program team didn't require any further direction, we opted to provide an update by way of report to the program steering group. And the content of that update has been included in the report that we're presenting today. So as usual, we'll be taking the report as read, but I wanted to highlight some of the more significant updates in that report for you now. So one of the key developments for the program has been the enactment of the Local Government Water Services Bill. The bill initially proposed a 2-year extension to our wastewater consents for wastewater consents that are nearing expiry, and through the select committee process that has now actually been extended to 3 years. So what that means is our wastewater consents will now expire on the 26th of August 2028. In effect, it actually gives us an extra 2 years because our original expiry date was 1st of October 2026. But really it's going to provide us a bit of breathing space. It reduces the immediate time pressure, and it's going to allow us to have more certainty to be able to plan and deliver those projects effectively. At a project level, we're pushing on. So for the Whakatane and Edgecombe wastewater projects, we'll soon be going out for requests for proposals via open tender for a project manager to lead that project or projects. The Matata wastewater project is also progressing really well. We've got key documents, project documents in place, and we're pretty close to procuring a whole technical team for that project. Once we've got a full technical team formed, we'll start launching into options development, similar to the process actually that we've been through in Matata. We form that core technical team and then start looking at what our options are in co-design with Ngāti Manawa. The Taniatua wastewater project is also underway, and Glenn Keepa is project managing that. We've had some initial discussions with Te Uru Taumatua to get some further direction on that project. And equally, our water projects are progressing really well as well. The Taniatua water consent is being worked through at the moment with the Bay Plenty Regional Council, and our other water consents, like-for-like water consents, have planners assigned, and we're hoping to have those lodged before the end of the year or in early, probably the first quarter of 2026. That concludes my update, and happy to take any questions.
Councillor Boynton.
Just to clarify, the positions that you've put forward, they're not related to the 12-month freeze that we have on staff coming on board?
Sorry, could you say that again?
The positions for the technicians of the project.
No, I can answer that one. No, each project has a budget to contract and resourcing to deliver those projects, so they're nothing to do with full-time FTEs and the 12-month hold.
Great, just wanted to clarify that in case one thought it was something different. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi, Jess and Nick. I'm just on page 65, and I'm just a little bit confused about what the context of the Ruatoki water supply. So, yes, we're fixing up our current one and looking for another one? That's the way that it read about the consent. About what part's on track if we're looking at alternative.
So Ruatoki has an infiltration gallery that sits right on the edge of the river. It's faced resilience issues previously. When the river moves, it actually ends up sticking out of the river. So there's been a long-standing project which Jim's team is leading to look for an alternate. And I think they're nearing or working through finding or securing an alternate supply. But we also, for resilience, would like to go through the consenting process and obtain consent to continue using that supply in case there were ever any issues with the alternate. So it's an interim to continue using the supply, but also long-term for resilience.
Okay, so we need the consent for the current one, even though it's got resilient issues, and at the same time you're looking for an alternate one. So you can't get a consent for that until it's dedicated as the alternate.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. All right. Thanks.
Councillor Tangos.
Thank you. I know that in Murupara they were very interested in Tini Aotanga o Matata o Te Arawa as a process, and I think they asked for observers, which they didn't get in the end. But are we following a similar kind of process with them?
Yeah, we are. So we have an established co-design group. We're in the early stages of that project. So we had initial conversations with Ngāti Manawa when Matamina was the CE, and since then, we're continuing in co-design with a few representatives from Ngāti Manawa being part of options assessment in particular.
With Matamina's retirement, I think, has that kind of just slowed things down a little bit?
No, I think actually it was internally while there's been a slow period with the reforms coming in. It's given us some breathing space, and we've restarted that project and re-kicked off with Eugene now at the helm.
Deputy Mayor Amick.
Thank you. I'm on page 66 now, just looking at the budget. So I see that we've got the remaining of 6.8 mil until, I guess, the 30th of June 28. So are we doing a review on any of these totals, or they've got cost of living or cost of increase factored in for contingency?
We are looking at rephasing the budgets at the moment based on when we think we will spend the money, and also based on, the 3-year extension that we've just been granted as well. Yeah.
Thanks.
Any further questions? The recommendation is on page 62 of our agenda. I'll just read it before I call for a mover and seconder. That the Infrastructure and Planning Committee received the Three Waters Consent Replacement Program Update Report September 2025. So move it to Councillor Boynton, seconded to Councillor James. Any debate? Pretty self-explanatory really, just an ongoing program, isn't it? So, okay, well, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Thank you, team. So item 8.4 is the Keepa Road Shared Use Path Options Report. Annalise is going to deliver that. Thank you. Pages 69 to 83 of our agenda. Thank you.
Kia ora koutou, thanks for having me here today. So I will take the report as read, but we'll just highlight a couple of points. So this report's been brought to the Infrastructure and Planning Committee following a request earlier in the year when the Coastlands Piripai Collective presented to a previous Living Together committee meeting. So this report highlights various options to either maintain or upgrade the Keepa Road Shared Use Path. These are similar to the options that were presented during the 25-26 annual plan development. And the recommended option is to carry out the reactive maintenance only at this stage, and then to further review this project along with all our other roading improvement projects when we develop the 2027 long-term plan. And just a note, the reactive maintenance that's planned to be undertaken, that's actually planned to begin next week, and regardless of if a different option is selected, that reactive maintenance work is required anyway. If one of the improvement options were selected, the work that's starting next week needs to be undertaken regardless. Happy to take any questions.
Questions, Councillor James?
So this reactive maintenance, nice word, reactive. So is that going to upgrade the path so that cyclists won't need to go out onto the road at all, or is there still going to be sections where people are going to use the road?
The work is just basic maintenance, so it's not going to drastically change the condition of it. So some users may choose to use the road rather than the path. I'm unsure. The key aspects of the work being done is clearing the detritus that's built up along the path, which happens, where loose chip and the like makes its way from the road onto the path. It's sealing the patches where the seal on the path is broken up over time and there's sort of base course and stones coming through. It's sealing the quite distinct area at the approach to the Kopi Canal Bridge, where there's the entrance to the Regional Council land. That's all currently unsealed, so that area is going to be sealed, so it will improve that. The section where the path is close to the canal and there was some previous AC work done and it's now quite bumpy, there's no further work being done to that section because there's no real simple fix to that. The land is subsiding because it's subsiding into the canal, so that would require a major upgrade and the likes of a retaining wall or relocation of the path to fix that. So that section won't see any major work done.
Just on that section, supplementary, please. Just on that section, what length are we talking about? Just for the section that is subsiding into the canal?
Oh, sorry, I don't have the measurement off the top of my head, but it's probably a couple of 100 metres, I'm thinking, looking at the aerial map. It's on page 70, there's a bit of an aerial map, and it's kind of that,
No, that's fine.
that section there, so a couple of 100 metres.
Thank you.
The bits where the level is different, does that just get sealed up to the road?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say all the bits between the path and the road will be sealed, but parts where there's quite a lot of migration of chip and the like, there will be some shoulder repairs done in those sections to help mitigate that as well. But there will still be some areas that aren't sealed between the path and the road.
Just this, another one. When was that red path first laid down? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, I had it in the report, so I can't remember quite off the top of my head, but I think it was about 27 years ago.
Oh.
Yeah, it's 27 years old, so...
Done all right for 27.
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Morning, Elise. I'm just on page 79, which has the table of approximate costs and rating impact. And I want to thank you for putting the rating impact in there, because I think it actually gives us a much better idea of not just going for the reactive maintenance, but to consider what a further upgrade, particularly in concrete, might cost us. Just in terms of whether we do 4 or 5 with concrete, the price of concrete, is it a good time to pre-purchase now?
That's a hard question to answer. Typically with inflation, things do increase over time, the cost of things. Concrete has seen quite a significant increase in pricing over the last few years. During that period, the whole construction industry has had significant inflation, but concrete in particular has been at the higher end of that inflation. But it is all relative to other factors that will come in the future. So, a hard question to answer.
It's supplementary. And any of these options are all going to be using local businesses?
Potentially. So because of the value of them, they will have to be externally advertised. Well, basically any of the ones over $2 million will go on the open market. They will be open to outside suppliers to also tender for them. The most appropriate tender for the project would be the one that is selected. Those that are under 2 million would be able to be procured through our supply panel, which mostly has local suppliers on it, but there are some non-local suppliers on there as well.
All right, thank you.
Councillor Dennis.
Thank you, Mr Chair. When you look at that table that the Deputy Mayor is referring to, the reactive maintenance of 50,000, and then you go back to the reseal or reconstruct existing path, rather than just reactive maintenance, why don't we just put 50,000 a year into resealing the existing path? So we just do once, like take the worst section except for the subsiding bit and reseal that for 50,000. And then maybe next year do another 50,000, and that way the people of Coastlands will see that we're actually doing a decent job bit by bit, and they'll see the progress.
That is something that could be done. Like I said, that maintenance work that has to be done regardless of the sealing. So like when we reseal a road, or like when you paint your house, you have to go around and do preparation work first before you can put that seal coat over the top. So we can't just seal sections in lieu of doing some of that maintenance work first. But on top of doing the maintenance work, if the council wanted to go with a sort of hybrid option 2, where instead of resealing the full length, we resealed part of the length, that is an option. The pros and cons would be similar to those set out under option 2. It would just be a smaller length each year.
Thank you.
Thank you. What's the current lighting on there? I see that if we looked at option 5, that the lighting is allocated at 600k. What lighting do we have on there at the moment?
None, except there is a flag light at the Ferguson Road intersection, but there's no path lighting at the moment.
So we could potentially do that option without the lighting?
Yep, you could potentially do it without the lighting.
Thinking that would bring us below the 2 million.
Potentially.
Can I just add to that, Mr Chair, that there would also, for the lighting, be options with like Trust Horizon, because that's the sort of thing that they would fund.
Exactly along the lines that I was thinking, yeah.
Councillor Dennis.
In regard to doing the maintenance, and you say that there is no budget, but don't we have a path and cycleway budget?
Yeah, so there's no rates increase because it's within an existing budget. So there is budget for cycle path maintenance, footpath maintenance and footpath renewal, but they are only just over a third of what was originally in the long-term plan, because we had a reduction in our NZTA funding. So last year some decisions were made to reduce our long-term plan budgets to match the NZTA funding that was approved, plus the local share that was included in the long-term plan. So it's,
so that's where the 50,000 comes from?
Yeah, it's coming from within that existing budget.
Thank you.
Councillor Dukes.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Just following on from Councillor Dennis's suggestion, how many metres would, say, 50,000 get us? Obviously, we would do the reactive maintenance, and if we said we wanted to put 50,000 as a start, for one part of it, how many metres would we be looking at?
I'm just trying to do the math, but I think it's a couple of Ks long, so at 280,000 for a few Ks, it would, probably at least be half a K to potentially between half and 1 kilometre, I'd estimate.
Maybe 4 years it would be sort of done.
So I guess I'll come back to you in a minute. Is there one of the options you showed it being away from the road altogether along the stopping? Is that a sort of big picture we're thinking about? Because it's quite dangerous where the path is now, really, because there's no delineation between the road and the pathway, and I just wonder, without wanting to spend too much money, is that an option to think about somewhere along the line?
Yes, so if the decision was to go with option 5, where the path was to have a full upgrade and replacement, that section along the canal would either need extensive retaining all the way along that couple of 100 metres, or for a similar cost and potentially more benefits, you could instead put a small footbridge across the canal and divert the path onto the other side of the canal. So if option 5 was desired to proceed, we'd evaluate those options through the design process and see what's going to provide the best whole of life cost and outcome.
So we could, if we said, well, let's do option 5, but we'll do it in stages, is that an alternative to what we're talking about here?
Yep, that's certainly an option. When the full Keepa Road upgrade project was included in the long-term plans, that was to upgrade the road as well as the path, that was broken up into stages. So stage 1 is kind of the state highway up to the Kopi Canal, then the Kopi Canal up to sort of the end of that narrow, or the tight section, and then stage 3 to coastlands. So that would kind of be the 3 sections that would make sense to break the path up into, because they kind of have their 3 distinct characteristics.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mr Chair. You've only indicated the rates impact for 2 years. That would obviously, if we did that over 3 to 5 years, would lessen the impact on the rate. So why have we only chosen 2 years?
I may need to get someone from the finance team to provide some more detail around that.
Because it's a CapEx item, isn't it?
Yeah, and the rating was based on the loan repayments. I think they're maybe just showing, I don't think it's indicating the payments being completed within 2 years. I think it's just showing what that rating impact for those 2 years would be, and then it would be subsequent, for the 30-year or whatever the typical financing term would be my assumption.
Thank you.
Unless anyone can add.
I think that would be correct. Yeah, no, it's normally a 25-year payback period, so I assume it's that sort of model.
It's been there for 27 years so far, so why are we shortening its payback? Yeah.
As Annie described it, I think is the way that's showing the impact year 1, year 2, and then it's you're up at that level. That's a continuous payment.
Yeah, so it's not like a 2-year payback term. It's just showing what the payback for the next 2 years is. Otherwise, it would be similar for the next 30 years or 25, whatever the nominated term was.
Councillor Lawrence?
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry, I take a different view. I think, we've had a hell of a slashing of our NZTA funding. We've had a presentation from a group of residents from Coastlands expressing their concerns over the safety on that stretch of footpath. If we proceed with anything other than option 1, are we then leaving the door open for other groups to come along pleading their case? I think, we've got to be realistic. Times are tough, and for that very reason, that funding's been slashed, we've had to cut back on a lot of our proposed work. So I'm sorry, I would be supporting option 1 only at this point in time.
Councillor Dennis?
I just want to clarify my suggestion that we do 50,000 a year for reseal. So you said you'd have to do the reactive maintenance first for 50 and then the reseal for 50. And you'd have to do that every year, wouldn't you? For each new patch that you do. So you're talking about 100,000 a year, not 50,000 a year.
Not necessarily. That path hasn't had a lot of maintenance in the last few years, so the 50,000 of reactive maintenance that's being undertaken at the moment would take care of the majority of the pre-seal repairs needed. There might be another sort of 10 grand or something needed as part of stage sealing, but I wouldn't expect there to be 50 grand of repairs for every 50 grand of seal.
So you're saying if we did the 50,000 this year, it would actually settle it down for quite a few years, that particular patch, and then look at it next year?
Yeah, the maintenance will tidy up the worst of the issues at the moment. It's not going to improve it, but it will hold it for a period of time and be in a similar condition to what people have experienced for the last few years.
Councillor Tangos.
Thank you. Thanks for the report. Couple of questions. The first one is, basically the government has cut funding to any active transport measures. They're actively hostile to active transport. If the policy changed for some reason, and we embarked on one of the options that goes a bit beyond the reactive maintenance, the way the funding is structured, if the policy changes, does that money then, can we use that money even though we've kind of started embarking on, can we get some shared funding even though we've started embarking on other upgrades? Or once you've started, is it like, right, we don't fund that, we just fund new stuff?
So if there was a policy change at that point in time, from that point in time onwards, any new costs would be able to be funded through that new policy. If they were approved, there'd still be a application and approval process, but any costs that had been incurred before that policy change. So, the government policy won't change until sort of at least October next year to really July 2027.
Yeah, thank you. I've a couple of questions. The other one was, so the way I get the proposal is that we do reactive maintenance, and then at the LTP we look at the whole package and look at this within the context of our overall transport funding, which makes sense. I think it's good to be strategic about how we spend our money and think about what our priorities are and where we want to put money. In terms of the active whakatane strategy, where are we with that? Because we did quite a lot of work in it a few years ago, and then with the loss of funding, I guess it's kind of gone off the table. Would there be a bit of a refresh of that as part of that discussion, or where are we at with that?
So the active whakatane strategy is still in place. Implementation of it has slowed with the slowing of funding, but it was adopted in 2020, I believe, around that time. And since then, there've been quite a lot of implementation. So, like I say, the strategy is still in place. It's still relevant. As we come into this next LTP development period, it probably will be worth us just at least giving it a review and seeing if there's any new things that need to be reviewed in it to make it more relevant. But it is still a key part of our guiding transport strategy documents.
And it's still largely fit for purpose.
Yes.
Okay, that's good to know. I mean, I'm one who would like to see us give more priority to active transport funding. My other question was around the option in here around option 3, reconstruct a path with unsealed surface. And so I understand in terms of the rating impacts, there's no immediate rating impact, but down the line, because we'll be drawing on reserves, so there may be some impacts down the line. That's, in some ways, that's quite an attractive option, even though there's a reduced level of service because of the surface will change. We're putting in place kind of that foundational stuff to kind of repair the foundations of it, I suppose. It says that it does not provide a long-term solution for the subsiding section by the canal. I'd like to understand that. I know the report does talk to it, but I'd like to understand that a bit more. What am I trying to ask? If we was to take that option, it doesn't address the subsiding section. Over what period of time? So if we did that, how does that problem kind of become apparent? Over what period of time? How serious is it? How urgently do we need to address that issue with the retaining thing that you've mentioned? Could you just draw that out a little bit more?
Again, little bit tricky to accurately answer, but because we'll be rebuilding the base, it will sort of buy some time. You won't have the bumpiness that you're currently experiencing, but as the canal and that land continues to subside, that sort of surface and the bumps will come back. Over what period of time, it is kind of hard to tell. It would likely be over a couple of years, and the remedial works required to that is something that could then be added on to what has been done with reconstructing the base. You'd be more inclined to go with the retaining wall option, because obviously you've already invested in a base on that side of the canal. To then go and put a bridge and invest on the other side of the canal, you'd lose some investment there. But yeah, it would buy a couple to a few years.
So in some ways, we might be better to wait to really explore some of the alternatives rather than invest in one thing which may not be the best solution in the long term.
Potentially, yeah.
My final question as well, if I may, I was just thinking of Councillor Dennis's suggestion around doing it section by section, and so I'm just trying to understand what that would mean for the user of the path. You'd have a section which was redone, and then the rest of it would kind of be largely like now, except there'd be a bit of maintenance done. So some of the urgent work will be done, and then you just get this moving kind of improvement, which would, and that would just kind of integrate with what's there. So that, yeah, all right, okay. Thank you. That's very helpful.
Can I just jump in on the staging question, and I guess I'm going to ask Annie a question. Can you just comment in terms of, if it's a relatively small amount of money that would be going in each year, what the value is of that money over time, and the efficiency in terms of, I guess, procurement and delivering the work? Is it worth it, I guess?
So there's obviously economies of scale when you do the complete job. It does also utilise a bit more specialist equipment. Like, it's not like sealing a road where we've got standard bitumen sprayers and that sort of thing. It's because of its narrowness. It's a bit more specialised. So you certainly couldn't just take the full length cost and divide it, and it's not going to be quite comparable. It will be similar, and obviously over time costs can increase as well, especially bitumen is another area in the last few years that's seen some significant price increases. So what 50,000 buys in the first year won't necessarily be what 50,000 buys you in the subsequent years. But that's the kind of gamble that we take with costs going into the future.
Chair, can I test the water and move recommendations 1, 2 and 3?
You can, but I just have a question, if I may, first, is that this 50,000 is a one-off for this year, isn't it?
The reactive maintenance option 1, 50,000, yeah, we'd carry that out this year, and I wouldn't expect that any major maintenance would be needed for a few more years.
So I'm wondering if there's an appetite around the table that we should actually go one step further and say, well, we're doing that this year, but the long-term thing is that we're going to do this, and I really think that over the other side of the canal is a more straightforward, where you can actually build the thing without interrupting what's there now. Because when you're doing a staging thing, some of that track's going to be closed. And so how do we, is there some merit in giving that sort of instruction, or how do we want to deal with, how can we deal with that? So we could approve option 1, but do we put a rider that we pursue the alternative track placement?
I'm happy as it is, actually. I don't know about the others, but...
Exactly. Staff have no. Staff have already indicated that it's going to come back with the LTP. So I personally don't think we need to do indicate anything. They're well aware to bring it back at the LTP.
Okay. So Councillor Isles has moved one.
There's a question over
Excuse me, I still have a question of clarity. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. We often just think about ourselves funding this, there are a lot of passionate community people out there, and even iwi who are really happy to think about the well-being and health of their people. Is there the possibility, just like any sort of cycleway or anything that's being developed, getting some philanthropic or other sort of co-funding, and they sponsor this half kilometre and someone else sponsors this half kilometre, and you put a little seat up? Like, are we trying to be thinking outside the box about how we can get, a great community asset, but not necessarily having to fund it ourselves?
So we haven't in detail looked into those alternate funding options. Like I sort of talked about in here, we did look at how we could potentially fund some of it through development contributions. As a lot of it relates to that sort of growth factor. But yeah, there's nothing to say that we can't explore those other funding opportunities. It's just, not guaranteed what would come out from that and the types of values that might be available. But we certainly can take a direction to explore that if that's desired.
And obviously it doesn't help us with the decision today, but...
Yep, so can we go to Mayor Luca and then Councillor Boynton? Mayor Luca?
No, I was just picking up on that. Is the possibility of a small targeted rate? I mean, a lot of people use the path in coastlands.
Thank you. Councillor Boynton?
Okay. I was actually really supportive of Gavin's idea and the prospect of being able to at least work on things incrementally. And even though that there's the possibility of, that it's going to be done in a long-term plan, this is probably a question not necessarily for this, but whether or not the recommendation could include that indication of considering other options at the long-term plan. Because looking at 73% of those in coastland bike, am I talking in debate, am I? Oh, okay. Thank you, sorry. It is there. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Councillor Riles,
No, I'll second it.
So moving the three.
1, 2, 3.
Three together, seconded by Mayor Victor. I'll just read them out. They're on page 69 of our agenda. That the Infrastructure and Planning Committee receive the Keepa Road Shared Use Path Options Report, and 2, that the Infrastructure and Planning Committee approve option 1, reactive maintenance only for the Keepa Road Shared Use Path, and 3, that the Infrastructure and Planning Committee notes that the further upgrade of the Keepa Road Shared Use Pathway will be considered during the development of the 2027-2037 LTP and guided by funding decisions from the New Zealand Transport Agency. So we have a mover and a seconder. Any further debate? Councillor Tanchos.
I support this recommendation. I'm a strong advocate for more funding for active transport. I think there's a whole heap of reasons why we need to do it for the health of our communities in terms of climate resilience. I note even things like evacuation, having really good cycleways can make a real difference to speedy evacuation rather than people getting in their cars. I think there's a whole lot of reasons why we need to be funding active transport modes better than we do. But I do think that we need to look at it as a whole. We need to take a holistic approach. I'm really mindful of the concerns from the community in coastlands. I agree with them. I think we do need to do something about that cycleway. But as I say, I think we need to look at it within the context of the whole. So I'm keen that we come back during the LTP and have a really good look at it. I'm really keen that the next council properly funds active modes of transport. And, I note the money that we put into sealing unsealed roads, I think the benefits of actually putting in cycleways are greater, will benefit more people, and have better health consequences. I know my colleague over the table disagrees, but I think you have to look at it as comparable. We put a lot of money into sealing unsealed roads. I think we should be putting more money into active transport. But I think this is the right approach to take. I agree with the chair that, you know, we also need to look at, before we invest money, we need to look at what's the long-term picture here, what's the best way to go. And if it is to go over the other side of the canal, and that would be great, it'd be a really nice cycleway, we don't want to be putting money into doing up something that's that we're going to move away from in the future. We don't want to lock ourselves into a position kind of in an ad hoc way. So, yeah, I support the recommendation and look forward to this council supporting more funding for active transport in the future.
Yes. So Councillor Riles, have you got a response to that thing? Or?
Just given
it. Mayor Luca.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a modest amount of money. It shows the community are actually going to do something. It's well overdue, and it's a well-used path. So, you know, so I think there's it's a no-brainer, really.
Thank you. Councillor Dukes.
Thank you. Yes, I just wanted to agree with Councillor Tanchos and Mayor Luca there. For me, I would really like to see something happening a lot quicker, but I do agree that we do need a considered approach, and we do need to take a little bit of time to actually get that. I would also like to support the Deputy Mayor's comments. I think we also need to be exploring other funding options as part of that considered approach. So I'll be supporting the recommendation.
Got a great ring to it.
And could we maybe look at signs rather than chairs? Because like one of those sort of park bench types are like $1,500 each.
I see we've got a champion on the cycleways in our midst. So, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, sorry, Councillor James, got in first. Yeah, I am supporting it, and I don't want to say reluctantly, but I do agree we probably need to, now that NZTA have pulled the funding on that, we need to sit back and look at the whole picture. But I would really, I'm just looking at on page 71, when it talks about NZTA, you have got funding for resilience. We've had 2 tsunami alerts in the last couple of years, and I don't know whether we can actually work more on that as an alternative exit, because anyone that's in coastline, including schools that are there, have only got one way out. And it's not going to take much for 100 cars to get stuck on that road, but if people can run, walk or cycle out away from the coastline, I think it might add weight to our coast. Yeah.
I've got Councillor James and then Councillor Boynton after.
Just in response to Councillor, coastlands do actually have more than one way out, because you go down Ferguson Road and there's several
but they're going to be going parallel.
No, but then
to the coastline.
Then you can cut inland. So yeah, don't have a look. But anyway, no, I'm all keen for doing something with the Keepa Road cycleway. I think it's an important project that we need to get on and deal with at some stage. But I think we need to wait to see what the government come out with, what help's available. So yeah, I'm in agreement. Just do the bare maintenance at the moment. But I want to support Councillor Isles and that. Don't give away to the cycleways just for resealing. It's all right for you when you live out on a sealed street.
But I think the important point that Deputy Mayor Emmett made was probably need to explore other options, because I don't know that NZTA is going to be where they've been in the past, and so we need to open our eyes a bit to that. So, Councillor Boynton.
Just want to support what everyone else has said, particularly with the other option of looking at what we can do incrementally. I'm really mindful that we sort of think that next year or next term, it's like we're walking into some kind of Christmas or something, that we're going to have all these goodies that we're going to open up because we've got a new council. But we've already seen indications that if the government's making changes to some of our way that we do business, and also how much we're able to charge, you know, that little hope of like, well, we'll wait till next Christmas and then we'll see if there's anything there and we'll be able to do it. I really don't think that that's going to be reality, and I'm very mindful of the community of Piripai who have demonstrated time and time again the need to be able to ensure that that is safe. And I know that the maintenance and that is a good thing, but like Councillor Dennis said, people want to be able to, even if it's optically, see that some progress is being made towards what they have been wanting for a long time. So what I was trying to indicate beforehand was, yes, it is about consideration in the LTP, but I did want to seek something to be more specific, just so that we lock that in. So if we get to our Christmas and we open up and there's not much in the presents next term, that we've put it down, you know, we've put it down on the line and we can push for it. So that's just where I'm coming from. So quite reluctant on that. But yes, thank you.
We're nearly there, Wendy and Chris, so just hang in there. So, the motion is on, the recommendation is on page 69. And we have the mover and seconder. Yep. So if there's no further debate, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Kia ora tātou.
We've got the easy one last.
Hopefully.
Oh, good.
Oh, I don't need to start.
The floor is yours, ladies.
Kia ora tātou. Thank you for having us. I take the report as being read. Of course. We take the report as being read. And just to quickly highlight the key points of the report, we're bringing the report to Council for a recommendation to approve 3 requests we've had for events which involve the temporary road closures of some of our local roads. The first one is our upcoming Battery Town Rally, which is an annual event held every year by, it's a national event, and this is the round 5 of their series, and it involves the temporary road closure of 4 of our local roads. One is a full closure and the other 3 are part closures, and they're just from significant time periods only, so it's not for the whole of the day and it's not for full closures. And the rally has actually been very proactive in approaching all of the residents that are involved. They've done 2 cold callings on the residents and seeking their approval, and for anybody that hasn't been home, they have left all of the information. So that is our first one. Our second one involves the annual Christmas parade event, which is held annually, and that's seeking a recommendation of approval for the rolling road closure that annually happens, and it's the same process, the same closure that happens every year. From a period of 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And our third one is the new Aotea block party, which is wanting to be an annual event, which will bring a lot of community and cultural investment into our town, and that's proposed to be held at the Wally Sutherland building, and that's a temporary road closure involving the service lane from the Strand through to Bracken Street. They are wanting to have a band, some food stalls. It's a family-friendly orientated event with also a licensed area as well. So they're all still in the process of happening, but these are the requests to temporarily close the roads. but we're open to questions. Thank you.
Thank you. So, question or clarification? Councillor Dukes.
Thank you. Looks a very fun event, that last one. Just in regards to the service lane there, because you didn't mention it, have they approached Pofakaro, which is the building directly behind them, and used that service lane for entry and parking into the Pofakaro building? Because I saw it was closed on like Friday afternoon or something. Just checking that they've had their okay.
Thank you, Julie. Yes, they're still in the process of clarifying all of this, but they have seeked and are seeking approval from all of the local businesses in that vicinity, and that will be in the inclusion. They're going to provide that information to us as soon as they get it. He's still dotting his I's and crossing his T's, so to speak. There's a lot of organising to do, and that is one of the things that are still on their list. Yes.
Can I just add to that, Councillor Dukes? It's only a partial closure of the service lane, so it won't go right to that end, so there shouldn't be too much impact on Pofakaro.
And I'm sure they'd probably be fine, but I was just checking what consultation had been done with the neighbours. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Morning, ladies. I'm just on page 85 looking at the Christmas parade event. At the Whakatane Hopi Community Board meeting last week, Rotary came to us to ask for $9,000 to assist them with their traffic management plan. Wow. And, we all took a pretty big gulp. Now, in previous years, when Rotary have done the parade, those businesses have kind of sponsored it. They're not in a position to do that now. But one of the suggestions that came out from the meeting was, what if we just closed off from the bridge to go down Landing into Main Road for 2 hours and diverted people down to Ottawa to go around town that way? Like, is there going to be any cost adjustment if the one main road was closed and then it would allow access to these other minor roads?
Thank you, Leslie. I can appreciate the concerns there. Firstly, that is a good solution. Firstly, as council, we actually waive our TMP costs to a not-for-profit organisation. So the fees and schedules that are charged throughout our process in the 25-26 schedule, we don't charge organisations for such events. And we don't charge them for the road closure. We only put through the costs which is for the publication, for public notification notices that go into the paper. As far as the external contracting costs, that is between the external contractor and the event organiser. But that is definitely something that perhaps Shelley could discuss with her TMP provider and seek to how they can perhaps bring those costs down a little bit. We've advised them to seek for funding for that, but that is no reflection on the council's costs to the event. We don't charge any of that. But it's definitely something that we can suggest to Shelley to discuss with her TMP provider.
Yeah, thank you for that, Wendy. And I think it was really like, we know it's a bit of a wiggle woggle from, Stewart and King Street corner all the way down through the middle here. It was like, and I guess it's an external contractor and cost. How can we just get the cost of it down? And it just seemed like, could we do something a bit simpler? So Shelley, you were referring to is someone on our team?
Shelley Brebner is the event coordinator.
Oh, the Rotary
event
coordinator.
I think they would also need to think about the starting of the event, because there's a lot of participants in the parade. So it needs to be a location that can cater for a large number of people on their premises, all setting up their equipment to do the parade. And so I guess that's possibly why they chose the locations in King Street and Kopiopio, because it supported the parade. But in saying that, there may be other options, and it could be something that they could potentially think about, and we could suggest that to her.
Just seemed very expensive for a couple of hours event for a voluntary organisation. Yeah.
It's necessity to have a traffic management plan is where it wouldn't matter where the road was going or closed, you still end up having that plan, don't you? So that's where the cost is in a lot of ways. Anyway, Councillor Dennis.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I'd like to talk in regard to the rally that's going up in the hills behind Pikawai and Manawahe. I don't really mind about the one along Campbell's Road, but I'm really concerned about the one that goes up Herapuru Road and then Rendell's Road. Rendell's Road is already a metal road that suffers from people doing unofficial rally driving, and so the metal banks up in driveways and all that sort of stuff, and we aren't that great at grading it out. I've had a few complaints from that. I'm sure the team do it at the regular times, but because of the unofficial rally driving is concerned. Also, Herapuru Road is a metal road that banks quite badly and get metal on corners. And then I'm also concerned we're going to shut down the main Manawahe Road from Herapuru right through to the top for 4 or 5 hours in an afternoon. So I've always been concerned about that. But the one I'm concerned about, with the metal roads, are we saying to the rally drivers, the organisation, can you pay for us to put a grader back down there the next day and fix up the metal that you've shifted? Because those guys spray a lot of metal around.
Just to respond to a couple of those queries. So we've been working quite extensively with the rally organisers around that, particularly I think it was last year's or one of the recent rallies. There was quite a significant weather event that hit just before the rally, and so it created more than expected damage. So there's a few things we've got in place. Our normal grading inspection and maintenance rounds, we make sure that that occurs just after the rally rather than just before, so we don't have to do additional maintenance to help that occurred during the rally. There's also a bond that's in place as part of the rally organisers utilising the road, so that's there to cover any additional metalling or grading that may be required outside of our normal maintenance. And also just a comment on Manawahe Road, it's only the section from Rendell to the Whakatane district boundary at the back of Lake Rotomar that's being closed. It's not from Herapuru Road, so the main part of Manawahe Road will be open.
It's just a touring stage, thank you.
Yeah.
And in regard to that too, I do know that sometimes the Manawahe District Society benefit because they sometimes put on lunch and stuff like that as a fundraiser, but I'm really pleased that you will grade straight after, so that's good, thank you.
I wouldn't say we grade straight after it, we just make sure that our regular maintenance rounds are occurring afterwards rather than just before.
So why aren't we putting a criteria on the rally organisers that they pay for a grader to go up there, or how expensive would that be?
So we do a pre and post inspection, and so we'll grade the road if it's due for it after the rally, but we're not going to send a grader up there if it's not needed, because grading the road when it's not needed degrades them.
Okay, and so if it really desperately is needed, it comes out of their bond?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Happy with that.
Right, any further questions? So the recommendations are on page 84. I'm not going to read them all because you'll fall asleep by the time I get there. So do I have a mover and a seconder for those, Councillor James and Councillor Boynton? Any debate? Councillor Boynton.
Just really an acknowledgement of the events that we're having in our district, and also too exciting that Aotea will be looking at a block party, particularly given with Tame's international connections, and that it's something really looking forward to for the summer. So it's exciting. Christmas parade. So there is a Christmas presence out there. Christmas parade, block parties, and also other events. So just an acknowledgement, really. Thank you. In support.
You're really looking forward to Christmas, Councillor Boynton. Yeah. Okay, any further debate? If there's not, we have the mover and seconder. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you, ladies. So I just invite Councillor O'Brien to...
Before we do that, Mr Chairman, I just want to thank you for your chairing the meeting today. It was a long, well, it wasn't a long, but it was an interesting meeting. I just want to appreciate the way you've chaired the meeting, so thank you.
Appreciate that, Councillor. I mean, we're here to get stuff done and we're doing that. And so, but we do it together. That's the main thing. So thank you for that. Councillor O'Brien.
Kia taunga ngā manaki tangata mea ngaruinu e tēnā tēnō mātou. Kia mahe aitu a makihiki. Toi te kupu, toi te mana, kia toi ngā tikanga koe. Ia te whakairi hea, he whakawātea. Hau mie, uie e. Tāiki, kia ora.
Well done.